me Don Clark. I have known Don Clark for about, what, 4 years now? 4 or 5 years?
4 years. Yeah. Has it been that long?
It's been that long. It's been that long. So Don is he's in broadcasting, and Don Clark. If you listen to his voice, he has the best voice, But he's in broadcasting. He's also done some radio. So we're going to find out some more things he's done as well. He's also the feature of All of Us magazine, which will be out by Monday, so you'll be able to download it and take a look and see what else he's doing. But we're actually here to talk about his past, and then we're going to go straight into his future of what he's doing. He has a new
we're going to talk about my past.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about your past, man. Yeah. All right. So, Don, how did you start broadcasting? Because I think I read 30 years you've been in broadcasting?
35 plus.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, it was, I'm from a very small town up in Wisconsin, and my brother and I both wanted to get into broadcasting. Bob was 10 years older. He got into TV, and he said, why don't you come into TV with me? And I said, I like radio. I've got a face for radio. I'll stay with radio. And that's what I did. And I started at a very small, like all of us did, you know, at the time, started a very small radio station out in the middle of nowhere up in Wisconsin, and did everything from reading the news to doing play-by-play sports to doing a show, whatever it took.
So this more like a news station?
It was what they called at the time, they were called full service AM stations. So you did news, you did music, you did sports. There used to be this little thing called Swap Shop that we used to do, that people would call in and trade whatever they had for whatever anybody would give them. It was really, really, truly small town radio, and it was a great area. It was a great station to learn. I was lucky. There were guys like Jim Kersole and Chris Bauman and Chris Bernier. I mean, these guys were the ones that owned it, and these were big time broadcasters from Minneapolis who just wanted to own a station, and they taught us well. So that's really where I got the start, and it was 35 plus years ago already.
With your experience, if someone wanted to get in broadcasting, what is something you could tell them they can expect when they first? And I'm pretty sure it's changed over the years, but what could they expect if they're going to walk into this the first day and they say, I really want to get into broadcasting, or what they need to do?
Be open to do anything, anything and everything. Be open to do, ask a lot of questions. Don't come in thinking that you're going to make a lot of money right away, because you're not. The money will come. It will. It'll get there. But you want to be able to go in with an open mind, and it's that passion for radio that got us into it. And there were a lot of people that I knew that got into it and didn't stay with it, because what they thought was passion was just, a passing phase, I guess. But the rest of us that stuck around, there's been a lot of changes, as you know, in broadcasting over the years. And you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be able to change and have a good sense of humor.
Because you're not going to walk in being a host, right? Because you just said you had to read the news, you had to do the weather.
Yeah, we talked about that before when you and I were, when I was at the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, now the Illinois Media School. When kids would come in and talk to me about what they were going to be doing in broadcasting, I'd always tell them, well, the first day that you're there, you're not going to be on the air. And they were offended by it. And I said, well, no, don't be offended by it. I said, you have to learn the fundamentals of that particular station, because every station is a little bit different. But as you learn more and more of those stations, you'll become more bankable. And like I said, the money will come. The money will be there.
So, but it also takes the personality as well, right? I mean, especially if you're one of the ones that want to be a host and have your own show. So it takes
Yeah.
personality.
I remember when I first started, you would always hear the term personality radio. And I was very naive when I first got in, and I
Mhm.
thought what they meant by personality radio was coming up with a different personality, coming up with a different persona for when you. Yeah, I'm serious. I did. I thought, and I would always remember hearing these, big time radio announcers, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then it was a guy that set me straight, um, George Ballman, who said, no, 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 just be yourself. He said, you got a great personality. You love to tell stories, blah, 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 blah. Do all that, and you're going to do just fine. And so that's what I did.
And that's what you did. Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
everybody listen now. Don't think that you can just go straight into the radio business. You have to read the news. You have to get the coffee.
Oh yeah.
Go to the store.
You gotta go fill up the gas, fill the van with gas.
All right, so let's move down some years. You've been in radio, you've been in broadcasting. How long did you stay in radio, and did you ever move over or transition over to television?
I never did the transition into TV. I once I got into radio, when I left Wisconsin, I went to Connecticut, and I was working for a number of stations in Connecticut. Then I found myself in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then I found myself back in Massachusetts. It's, the old, town to town, up and down the dial, moving around. I've moved. I actually had to sit and count one night. I moved
Really?
15 times in
What?
my career. And I always wished that U-Haul had a frequent mover card, because I could have saved a little money. But, it's the opportunities came along, and I had to take them. And I ended up leaving New England, and I went back to Wisconsin. I got a call from a guy in Green Bay who was running a group of stations in northern Wisconsin, and he said,
Mhm.
we heard about you. We want to talk to you. We've got some oldie stations. We think you'd be perfect. And quite honestly, Alice, when I found out that it was an oldies radio station, I was in heaven. Because, growing up,
I can imagine.
where I did, there used to be these things. There's still some around, but they were the daytime radio stations that were only on the air during the day, and at sunset they would go off the air. Well, when those stations went off the air, and this is going back to the 60s, when I was a little kid and I was messing around with the radio, I could
Mhm.
tune in and hear these stations out of Memphis and Little Rock and Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, wow.
And listening to it, that's where you heard music that you wouldn't hear otherwise. And
Right.
you had a chance to hear the blues. You heard R&B. You heard all these great artists that you would rush out the next day to whatever record store you could find to see if you could buy them. And it was just, you were indoctrinated into this different vibe of music. So when I had a chance to program that, I jumped at it. And I did that up there. I did that for 8 years before I ended up here in Chicago.
Oh, wow. Well, what is 35 years? I'm pretty sure you can tell me what is one of the toughest tasks in broadcasting? What is tough for you? Or what was tough? Because 35 years, it should have been easier after a while.
Yeah, I think one of the toughest things that I dealt with was getting fired. It's, you're going to get fired. I tell everyone, you will get fired. I guarantee it. You will get fired.
Yeah, because that's like a huge turnover in broadcasting, isn't it? In radio broadcasting, it's a huge turnover in hosts. Yeah.
And they will let you go very quickly. We've decided to make a change. And they hand you an envelope and you go home, and it hurts like hell, but I have always been a big believer in, and we can touch on this in just a little bit, but I'm a big believer in, out of every catastrophe comes an opportunity. Yes. And that's been a part of that. I did get fired And so you can trust me. I've been fired. I've been fired. So they said never
So
trust anyone who hasn't been fired.
Right. So is it like a numbers game for radio broadcasting?
Yeah, it's the ratings came out, and your ratings aren't as good. We're gonna move you to nights. We're gonna put you back on nights, and we've got somebody else that's coming into midday. And that kind of stung, but it's after a while you realize, well, it's whatever's best for the station. Okay.
Yes.
So that was a hard part. Just the traveling around, that stuff, that was all fun. I loved that. Going to another station was just an absolute blast. Never had a problem with moving, but it was leaving when you would move on to a different station. You said goodbye to a lot of really close ones. This is a very family-oriented business. Everybody becomes family very quickly.
I can imagine.
You love each other, you hate each other, you argue with each other. It really is a family atmosphere. And when you leave that family, especially after you've been there for a while, it's like this hurts. This is going to be tough. But then you move on to the next one. And of all the stations that I worked at, there was always one person that I still keep in touch with. That was just a great brother or sister that and when I did morning radio, there was a lady that I worked with, Veronica Carter. She was my morning wife, my radio wife. And we did a morning show over 3 years together, which is a lifetime in radio. And, just the good times. The good times definitely outweigh the bad. That's why it's always kind of tough to pick one bad thing. But that's, if you are looking at a bad thing, that's about as bad as you can get, losing your job.
Did you stay at the radio station when you moved to Chicago?
You know what? I was recruited to come down here to program a few stations that were in a group in Northwest Indiana, and they were still considered the Chicago market. They were fringe stations, so they were on the outlying areas. And I did the work with them, and there were some stations in Chicago that would call me up and say, hey, could you do some commercials for us and stuff like that? And I never turned down, that's I guess another good lesson, never turn down money.
Yeah.
Hey, we'd like to do this for you. You gonna pay me? Yeah. Okay, I'll do it.
That's funny. You're like, never turn down money. I never turn down money, people.
Never turn down money. I like the way it feels, and I like the way you can spend it.
I like the way my shoes look because I bought money with the money. So, so now you're back in Chicago. You're doing some programming. Now I met you at the school. Was that years later that you ended up at the school, or doing it?
Yeah, that was and it was a weird thing. I got fired, and again, okay, well, that's,
you should be used to it now.
I'm used to it. And I ended up getting a hold of the school because the guy that was running the school at the time, his name is Bill Natale. Bill and I have known each other for years. Bill worked with my brother in television. And when I found out that he was running the school, I reached out to Bill, and I went down and met with him in his office, and we talked for about 10 minutes. And he said, well, let's get you teaching. And I said, just like that. And he said, how long have you been in radio? I told him, he said, I think you qualify. We can get you started right away. So yeah, I was with the school, the career services department for 9 years. Oh, wow. And I loved it. I really did. It was a great opportunity to get kids into broadcasting, and really help. And we helped in those 9 years, a lot of kids get a lot of really good starts. Everything from there's a small station in North Dakota that I still do work with, KDKT. It's run by a guy out of Arizona, and he hired a lot of young sportscasters. They did play-by-play sports for him. And then we also had people that left the school and went right to San Francisco, or went to Boston, or went to Miami. I mean, they were working major markets right out of the school. So
And what is the major market? Like we would say for entertainment, for acting, you need to go to California or New York. What is it for radio?
yeah, for radio, it's, the top markets. New York is number one,
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles number two, Chicago is number three, Houston is number four, and then you've got Miami, and then you've got Philadelphia, and then you've got Boston, Washington D.C.,
Oh wow.
and on and on. There are 260 plus markets in the country, and they're based on the major markets, which are the major cities in,
Right.
in the United States. And then there's large, medium, and small market radio. And they're all, like I said about Chicago, with fringe stations on the outside, there are, in all of those markets, there are those fringe stations. So if you're new and you're starting off in broadcasting and you really want to work in Chicago, that's great, but try working in Joliet first. Work at there's a great company called Alpha Media that owns a number of stations all the way from Pleasant Prairie over to St. Charles, Aurora,
Wow.
Naperville, Joliet. They're great stations, and it's a great way to start off. That will get you into the Chicago market. You
Okay.
just gotta, like you mentioned earlier, and like I mentioned, you gotta be able to go in and, earn your stripes.
You got to earn your stripes.
Or,
Go get the coffee.
Right.
Go get the coffee. All right. So
And
now we're at the beginning. We're at the middle. You get in Chicago, and then I look up and see you're working with the television or video.
Yeah, I ended up. It was kind of a roundabout way, but I am now involved with. Well, like I said earlier, when you've got a catastrophe, you need to find an opportunity out of that catastrophe to move forward.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And now I was working from home anyway, and I was able to start up Don's Basement Productions, which is something that I've really been doing ever since I've gotten into radio. But now I'm able to do more of it. And just today we met with Buddy Guy at his club along with his crew, and we're producing a documentary on Buddy and the club.
Buddy Guy he's the correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the blues singer, right?
He's the blues singer. Yep.
Yeah.
And Buddy Guy Legends. Buddy would be there every night in the month of January in residence, and then he would be out on the road. 74 years old, still going strong.
Really?
And the topic came up a while ago about maybe we should do a documentary with Buddy. Buddy Guy Radio is actually something that myself and Carlton McDowell started up about 3 years ago now, 2 years for sure. And he wanted to do a blues radio station. And I said, if you really want to make an impact, get a name behind it. And he called me up about 6 months later. He said, would Buddy Guy work? And I said, that would be really good. Why? And he said, we got him. So Buddy Guy Radio, Buddy Guy Television came in. And I just started working. I did a lot of freelance work, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm working with some radio stations on consulting.
Okay.
I'm working with radio stations. I do commercial work for them. I do little station promos and imaging, the stuff that you hear in between the songs. I do that. And it was a friend of mine here in Northwest Indiana who said to me, you've been doing this long enough. You should be sitting at your desk with a laptop and a cell phone and talking to other radio stations and helping them succeed like you did. And I went, okay, yeah. So I keep the coffee pot handy, and my wife has been working from home. My wife Teresa has been working from home since March, and probably the greatest thing, Alice, is that yeah, we both are working from home and we both like each other and we get along.
You get along.
So
Well, that will be
yeah,
very important. Okay.
yes. And she's upstairs and I'm down here, and then at night we'll switch and I'll go up there. That's where I have all the studio equipment,
Mhm.
and it's great. I'm loving it. It's
Yeah.
it's just absolutely a blast. And I still get calls from the school. I still get calls from kids saying, hey, I had a job. I got a contract. They're talking about this. Can you help me out? And I told them when I left there, I said, I will always help you guys no matter what, as long as I am able
Right.
to, I can help to a point, but, you know, this business is such a great business. And I'm so lucky to have been able to work where I did and work with the best people that I have, and, been able to, meet the people that I've done, and witnessed history the way we did, all while on the air. I thought about that last week when all of this was going on at the Capitol, and what it was like to be on the air on that day. And I turned the clock back to 9/11 when I was on the air that morning when that happened, and being able to be a witness to history on something like that, and to be able to look back on it as I still say 9/11 was my best day on the air, and it was my worst day on the air, because it was just so encapsulating of what was going on. Same thing happened last week, and it's and it happens again and again and again. Every generation has that moment. I always called it the old blank moment, when you all of a sudden you're going through it and you're like, oh my God, I'm really a witness to this. And I'm the one that has to tell everybody what's going on and try to be calm about it and make sense of it. And when you go back and take a look at it again, it's like, God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was just an amazing day. It was a horrific day. I'm not making light of anything. It was a horrific day. But to be a part of that was
You got a chance to be a
very
part of history.
right. Yeah,
That's what I was saying. You
look
got a
back
chance to
on
be
it.
a part of history. With the events that's going on in the last few months with our presidential race, and then the Capitol. And I thought about the same thing at the end of the year. I thought about, I'm like, oh my, I have seen a Black president. I have seen a president who was a reality host become president, a man who was a reality host become president. And then I've seen, in my opinion, a man who started a civil war, and unbelievable. You would never believe it would ever happen in the United States. Other countries you can say, yeah, we can see that happening. In the United States, you would never think that our own Americans would bum rush the Capitol. So
When
it's a lot.
I heard about it on the radio. I
Mm-hmm.
was on the road when it happened, and when I got home and I turned on the TV, and I remember looking at Teresa, and Teresa's mom was here, and I looked at them. I said, "This is something that you see in Iran, in Iraq, in Bosnia. This is not us. This isn't what we're about." And I don't know. I hope that this is short-lived, but I don't think it is.
No.
I think the best thing that people can do, and I be honest with you, I think it was maybe it was Friday morning. I got in the car and I took a drive out to the Dunes Park, the national park here in Northwest Indiana, because I knew I was going to be alone. I just needed some downtime to think about this and go, you're not going to be able to, there's a lot of things that you can't make sense out of. And I think this is one of them. So the one thing that you can do is be with your family, be with the ones you love, stick with them, talk to them, help each other through it, and do whatever you can to get through it,
Yes.
and you'll be okay. But it's just,
okay.
it's an amazing time, and
It is.
it is.
And if you were still on a radio station, it would probably be even more amazing for you because you have to report it. So now, once again, you say you have to stay calm while you're reporting this, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
and that's, you know, and not only stay calm, but make sure that everything is factual,
okay.
because
Yeah.
you know you're not things that, you know, that's another thing that has changed. There's a lot of different types of facts that come out these days, and you know, it's not like it was back in the day when you turned on the news at 5:30 at night and there was an old guy smoking a cigarette telling you the news, and you knew it was fact. You know, this guy was telling you the truth. And
it changes.
now
it changes quickly, just like that.
It does.
It changes quickly. So if this is a fact, one day it has, as my sister and I were talking about the COVID-19, and when it first started, you could take Tylenol. Then they said no, you can't take Tylenol. It changed just that quick.
Right.
It wasn't.
And that's right. That's right after you took the Tylenol. It's like, oh crap.
But now, when I had it, they said, "Oh yeah, now it's safe. You could take Tylenol, or you could take ibuprofen."
Yeah.
You know, it changes very quick. So throughout your 35 years, and we're getting towards the end now because we want to know more about your business. But throughout the 35 years, you met any famous people other than Buddy?
Oh God, yeah. You know, I've met a lot of very famous people, and I've had people say to me, well, where are all the pictures? And I'm like, I never took any. I always thought it was kind of weird. You know, I have a few that I took, but I was always kind of a little shy about that. Hey, can we take a picture? I thought of it as kind of, you know, I don't know.
If you were in this day and age, you wouldn't be shy about asking for a picture.
Oh no. Well, that was another thing too. I mean, now everybody, you got a camera on you constantly. And you can take them anytime. But some of the people that I met that really stood out, the country singer Garth Brooks and I had a wonderful time backstage at one of his concerts in Boston. We just had a lot of extra time, and here's a guy who at the time was just breaking, and the guy was selling more albums than the Beatles and everything else.
He was just starting?
He was just starting. It was right when he broke.
Oh wow!
Right when he broke. Right before. Right at the time that the Grammys came out, and he walked away with an armful.
Yeah.
And so here we're sitting there talking, and we're talking about sports, and we're talking about, you know, the different genres of music. Nothing what he did, and it was great. It was just a great conversation. I met a lot of political figures when I was working out east. Senator Kennedy in Massachusetts, Christopher Dodd in Connecticut. Just a number of political types, because that was one of the stations I worked at was a political news talk. So they were all there. But just, you know, the artists in general, today, and I remember telling Teresa when I called her when I left downtown today, I said, this was one of the highlights for me, to meet Buddy Guy. And I've met him before, but I never had a chance to really talk to him like I did today. And just this sweet man of music who is just a joy to speak. It was so much fun. And then you meet some people that aren't so nice, you know, and you learn early on that when you do meet actors and actresses and all this, you know, I remember somebody said, wow, they were really nice. I'm like, they're paid to be nice. You know, it's that I don't, you know, it's almost like the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right.
You know, you don't want to. I'll tell you real quick, and I'll make this as quick as I can. My favorite person that I met was the actor Jeff Daniels. Now, Jeff has been in a number of movies, but he was in a movie called Pleasantville. And if you haven't seen the movie Pleasantville, I highly recommend you go get it and watch it again. It's a great story. When it first came out, it was really marketed as a comedy, and it's not a comedy. It's got some serious racial overtones to it.
Okay.
It does have comedic elements to it, but it's got a very strong message. And when Jeff Daniels came to the radio station, he was promoting a different movie that he made, a terrible movie that he made called Escanaba in the Moonlight, and it was just awful. But when I had the opportunity to interview him, I said, "Great, bring him in. I'd love to interview him." And we talked about Escanaba in the Moonlight, but the guy that was with him had all these different scripts of what we wanted to talk about. And before we went on the air, he handed them to me, and I tore them up and I threw them away. And this kid, he was a kid, probably early 20s, fresh out of college, is looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Trust me, this will be fine." And we talked for about 2 minutes about this Escanaba movie. And then there was a pause, and I looked at him and I said, "Tell me about Pleasantville." And he sat back in the chair, and the tone of the interview totally changed. And he looked at me and he said, "That was the greatest script that I was ever a part of. I love that movie." And he talked about a lot of the inner workings of it. And I don't want to give it away. You got to watch it. You will, Alice, I promise you will absolutely love it. And it was that when I got done with that interview, we both looked at each other, and it was just, we didn't have to say it. We just kind of looked at each other. Yeah, that was fun. You know, that was a good time. So yeah, you do get a chance to meet a lot of people from movies, music, sports, and on and on and on. And as long as you remember that, you know, they're just regular people. They really are. Some of them are a little more enthralled with themselves than we are of them. And that's okay. You know, I guess you gotta do that too. It's what makes the world go around, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Don, tell me about Don Basement Productions. So now you're into television or film. How your brother feeling about that?
Well, you know what? I will say that my brother, unfortunately, is no longer with us.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Bob passed away not too long ago. But the beautiful thing about all of this is I'm working again with Bill Natale, who worked with my brother. And at one point, you know, today I didn't say it to him today, but I have said it to him in the past. I just leaned over and said, "Boy, Bob has got to be looking down right now, going, this is so great that you two are working together." And it's nice because with Bill and the stories that he has about Bob and the stories that I have about Bob, it's just, we're able to talk about that, and it just feels so good. But the work that I do with Don's Basement Productions, I do commercial voiceover. I do commercials. I am the website is really simple. It's donsbasementproductions.com. It is going to be going through a little bit of a uptick. I got to clean house a little bit. I did a soft opening with it during COVID, and like everything else, it just kind of, you know, things were weird and things got out of hand. But I'll be working with more companies in 2021. I'll be doing more consulting in 2021. I never really liked or cared for the word consultant because there was always kind of a negative connotation with it. I'm more of I'll sit down with you and you tell me what you need and I'll do my best to help make that happen or fix it or whatever it needs. Um, it gives me a chance to work with other people that are in this industry that are trying to get by during these days of COVID. It's just tough. There's a lot going on out there. And a lot of us have sat down in the past year and said, you know what, we can do this, we can do this, we can't do that. We're not going to, nobody's making a lot of money right now, but if we can make a little money's better than no money. And let's find some different ways to do it. We did a town hall meeting back in March of last year, back in April, a number of broadcast executives from around the country. And one of the comments that I made that I received a couple of emails from it that there were some people that were pretty upset that I said it. But I said, if you're planning on coming out of COVID the same way that you went into COVID, just stop, just shut off your station. Just stop, because you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to need to, COVID is making everybody zig. You got to zag. You got to find a way to get around this. There's got to be different ways to make money with it. It is, Alice, it really is the epitome of ready, fire, aim. Do it, fix it, try it. Again, now there's a lot of people that are out of work right now in this industry, and it's right across the board, not just broadcasters. You've got, you've got musicians, you've got promoters, and when you talk about the promoters and the concerts, right down to the ticket takers and the people that sell the programs, everybody's affected by it. And I'm lucky I've been able to work with a couple of people who are in the process of doing, and we've already booked 15 concerts for 2021 that will be held at drive-ins. And not only will we be able to do the concert, but we're also going to be able to film it, stream it. We've got companies already lined up that want to sponsor it. And it's really because of a lot of the people that I met with over the past 9 years through the school, just a different context that I had, that are sitting back going, you know what, we can do this. We can try it, and if it doesn't work, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, not so great, but I'm not going to bang my head against the wall. I'll find another way to make it work. And
that is such an awesome idea. That is an awesome idea to do a concert at a drive-in. That is awesome.
Yep, and they don't have to get out of the car. There was the comedian Jim Gaffigan did one last year, and he said that it was very enlightening, and it was very humbling, because you could hear the laughter. It was more subtle because everybody was in their cars, but whenever they would laugh, they flashed their lights. And he said that's how I knew I was hitting home, because the brighter the lights got, the more laughing they were doing.
That is an awesome idea. So do you work with just companies, or you work with individuals as well?
Individuals and companies. I'm going to be working with a project with this group DSN Radio out of Arizona. I'm going to be doing some work with them in February. There's a group up in Wisconsin that I'm doing work for their radio station, doing some consulting for them also. We actually, we're going to be meeting with their air staff by Zoom. He wanted us to get together in January there, but that's not going to happen. So I wish I would have had stock in Zoom a year ago. I'd be on Island Don right now, but there are a lot of companies out there that are very anxious to work with other companies and other individuals to make their business run as smoothly as possible. And it's not just in broadcasting. There's other areas that that you can help out, and that's so Don's Basement Productions is really that. And then I do have a weekly radio show that I do on a number of internet and terrestrial radio stations called Don's Basement Tapes. And it was, you know what? It was a gentleman that you know very well who really talked me into doing this show, Art Porter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Art Porter, Art and I shared an office together, as you know.
Yes.
When he passed away, that was a very dark day. I think about Art every day and what he taught me. And you know, you're never too old to learn anything. And
no,
he was the one that talked me into doing Don's Basement Tapes. And it's a throwback to, there used to be a radio format called AOR, which was adult oriented rock back in the 70s. And it's music from that, and it's based on the antics that would go on in my parents' basement back in the day, back in the 70s. We'll leave it at that.
Well, what else can we expect? I know you said you're working on Buddy's film. So, you got anything else lined up?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a couple of other things that are in the works. We're still trying to nail down some stuff with it. I owe you a debt of gratitude for allowing me to be on with you, just to be able to get the word out about Don's Basement Productions and Don's Basement Tapes too, because you know, you and I have known each other for quite a few years now, and I'm lucky to be able to consider you a friend, and I'm very grateful for this. And if anybody is in need of commercial production or anything like that, or writing or anything, donsbasementproductions.com.
And voiceover.
And voiceovers. I've
always loved a voice.
Oh, thank you, Alice. I've done some narration lately. I've done some other documentary work. I'm not going to be doing a lot of work, voice work, with the Buddy Guy project right away. I will be down the road, but Buddy is running my show every Tuesday night at 8:00. It's on, and
where can we hear you at? Where's your radio? I mean, what internet station?
If you go to on Tuesday nights, 8:00, buddyguyradio.com, you can hear the show. Here in the area in Northwest Indiana, we have WLPR, Lakeshore Public Radio. They run it on Tuesday nights at 10:00. There are a couple of internet stations and terrestrial stations, on-air stations in Chicago that run it. The list of all of those is up on donsbasementproductions.com. It's a fun show. It's only an hour. When I first talked to Art about putting it together, and I told him some of the antics that went on down in that basement and the characters that were a part of it, he said, "You owe it to those people to do this show."
Yeah.
And the music is fun. You get to bring back a lot of music that really hasn't seen the light of day in a long, long time. And the real fun part of it for me is it's a bit of therapy without having to pay a therapist, you know.
Look, Don, we are not going to let you go without telling us some type of antics. Come on now. You can't go without saying something. Because you can't just tell us.
You know,
what are the antics, Don? Come on.
It was the 70s. And, you know, it was the...
you see this? What is that? Give us one. Come on, give us one.
Oh, boy. Let's see. There was my parents were out of town, and the basement really became a hangout for about 12 guys that I went to school with, and the house was right across the street from the high school. So slowly every day, more and more people would start showing up down in the basement. And the crowds got a little bit bigger, and it got to the point where experimentation took place in some areas with 11 herbs and spices. And again, it was back in the day. It was the 70s. And I will share this, and this has actually been, I have been asked by a number of the guys to, that's our puppy Sophie, a number of the guys that came down to the basement to tell this story. And I never told this on the air. So you're pushing me, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it.
Thank you.
We were sitting down in the basement, and one of the guys brought out a joint, and he said, "Can we smoke this down here?" And I said, "No, we can't. It's going to stink up the house." And he said, "Well, what if we blow the smoke in the vent, and it'll go out the door, or it'll go down, in the heating area. Nothing will happen to it." So we lit it up, and we're blowing the smoke in the vent, trying to make sure that it never gets. Well, what happened was that vent went down the basement, and it went down to where my dad's workbench was. And so he's working on some stuff on the workbench, and the smoke is coming out of the vent, but he smoked. So he's not really seeing it. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the basement door, and it was Dad, and he came in, and he's just smiling and happy. And he looks at all of us and, "Hi, guys." And I'm looking at everybody like, oh my God, I know what happened. So yeah, that was one of the funny, that story gets brought up almost every time that I get together with the guys. They're like, "Yeah, remember that time we got your dad high down in the basement?" It's like,
did you ever tell your dad what actually happened?
Yeah, we did. Actually, we did. That happened about 2 weeks down the road, because he came in and we were sitting there eating. We had popped some popcorn that night, and he came walking in. He sat down on the couch. He's like, "Ooh, popcorn," and he starts munching a bunch of popcorn like it was going out of style. So it was about 2 weeks later that we had to sit down, and we fessed up. We're like, you know what? We got to tell him what really happened here. And
oh my God, that is amazing.
I was lucky. My parents were very progressive. They were very cool. They weren't at the beginning with my brother, but I think after they had Bob and then they had Mary, by the time I came around, they're like, "You know what, just
whatever.
Go ahead, whatever you want."
Right. Just don't burn the house down.
Just don't burn the house down. Exactly.
That is awesome.
It really became, if you know that 70s show,
yes.
I've had people that have said to me, "That 70s show is based on your parents' basement, isn't it?" And I said, at first I did morning radio. I didn't see the show. It was on at 8 o'clock at night. I was in bed, so I didn't see it. So when I finally saw it, I'm like, "Oh my God, that is my parents' basement." And it was never proven, but I think that there was somebody involved with the show who at some point in time ended up down there and
your basement.
Took some ideas from it. But the great thing about our basement, we had a better stereo.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Listen, people, make sure you check out Don's Basement Productions. All right, you can catch him on the radio. Are you doing YouTube?
I have a YouTube channel, and I really haven't done much with it yet. And I did it because somebody had told me, "You really should put all your stuff up on YouTube."
You should.
So the more that I do, now that I'm getting involved with more production, video production, there will be more added. And the Don's Basement Productions YouTube channel. It's up. It is up. We're not doing much with it yet, but we will.
All right, so we're going to head on over to his webpage, to Don Production, donsbasementproductions.com, and we're going to send him a note and say, hey, you need to be on YouTube so we can see and hear, because these stories, because that is a hilarious story. So we need to hear more of those, right? And
tell me more about the basement.
Yeah, tell me more about the basement. What all the crazy things went on with the basement. Yeah, and then you should have some of your friends on. They probably spilled all the tea on you, Don. You know that,
right? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I know. That's why I don't. That's why I leave them off the show. It's best.
Not fair, Don. We want to see your friends, okay?
Okay. Well, I think it's already been brought up. You know what we've done? We've done virtual cocktail parties. And I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to record one of them, and when we have all of the people together and
put that on YouTube
something
so
out
we
of
can
it.
see
I think that'll be a lot of fun.
It will be. Well, I want to thank you for joining me and giving us a lesson and history. And oh my God, when do you expect the buddy story to come out?
We're hoping that it's going to be sometime in February. Late February will be the first show. We're looking at a couple different outlets for it right now, but it is going to happen. We should have the interview segments done very quickly. We've got some performance pieces that we're going to be doing, including some of the performances that Buddy did during his residency in January of past January. So it's exciting. It's going to be really fun. Buddy is such a Chicago icon, a blues icon. We're so lucky to still have him around with some of the other guys. And I am just thrilled that I'm able to be a part of this, to be one of the producers of this show. I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. Well, congratulations on everything, Don. And I do consider you as a friend too. So thank you for doing this for me as well.
Alice, I treasure our friendship. You've been a great friend all these years, and we still have some stuff to do together. And I'm very grateful for you allowing me to come on and talk and tell some crazy stories and get a little serious too. But it was an absolute thrill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. And at the end of my show, I always say, doesn't matter how old you are, you can get up and you can start your life off. Every day that you can wake up and open up your eyes, you can get up and do something. Find your fire, be true to who you are, and whatever you do, inspire someone along the way. What about you, Don?
There you go. That's good advice. That's good advice. My other advice for those that are getting into radio right away, rent everything. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine. All right, thank you.